The breaking of the SALT Act marked the beginning of the civil disobedience movement. Worried by this development of a new type of a satyagraha, that is, of defying the laws of the British government, the colonial government started arresting the Congress leaders one after another. They felt that the arrest of the Congress leaders will halt this satyagraha movement. This led to violent clashes. So, as they were arresting many leaders, this led to violent clashes in many places. Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who was a devout disciple of Mahatma Gandhi, was arrested in Peshawar in 1930. Angry crowds demonstrated on the streets, facing armored cars and police firing. So many were killed in this police firing. A month later, when Mahatma Gandhi himself was arrested, industrial workers in Sholapur attacked the police post, municipal buildings, law courts, and railway stations. All the structures that symbolized British rule. A frightened government responded with a policy of brutal repression. Peaceful satyagrahis were attacked, women and children were beaten, and about 1 lakh people were arrested. On the previous slide, we saw that Mahatma Gandhi had been arrested. It all happened after the SALT Act. After the SALT Act was broken, on 18th of April, around 100 revolutionaries had attacked a police and a railway armor at Chittagong. Mahatma Gandhi had condemned this raid, which had a deep impression throughout India. But after this, the British government arrested Mahatma Gandhi and kept him at Yarwada jail near Pune. After this, we know that in Peshawar, many other leaders were arrested, and Ghaffar Khan was the one who was arrested. People started demonstrating on the street, and when Gandhiji was arrested, workers at Sholapur started breaking up all the government buildings. Correct? So now, in such a situation, Mahatma Gandhi once again called off the civil disobedience movement, and he entered into a Gandhi Irwin Pact on March 5, 1931. Alright. By this Gandhi Irwin Pact, Gandhiji consented to participate in the Round Table Conference. The Congress had boycotted the first Roundtable Conference in London, and the government agreed to release the political prisoners. In December 1931, Gandhiji went to London for the conference, but the negotiations broke down and he returned disappointed. Back in India, he discovered that the government had begun a new cycle of repression. Ghaffar Khan, Jawaharlal Nehru were both in jail. Congress had been declared illegal and series of measures had been imposed to prevent meetings, demonstrations and boycotts. With great apprehension, Mahatma Gandhi relaunched the civil disobedience movement. For over a year, the movement continued, but by 1934, it lost its momentum. Let's find out when the civil disobedience movement was again restarted, who participated in the movement. How did they participate? Let's find out. There were different social groups which participated in the civil disobedience movement. Now, why did they join the movement? What was their ideals? What did Swaraj mean to them? In the countryside, rich peasant communities like the Patidars of the Gujarat and the Jats of Uttar Pradesh were active in the movement. They were the producers of the commercial crops. They had been hit hard by trade depression and falling prices. As their cash income disappeared, they found it impossible to pay the government's revenue, which was demanded by the government. And the refusal of the government to reduce the revenue. Government was not ready to reduce the revenue, and which led to widespread resentment. The rich peasants became enthusiastic supporters of the civil disobedience movement, organizing their communities and at times forcing reluctant members to participate in the boycott program. For them, the fight of Swaraj was struggle against high revenue. What did the fight for Swaraj meant for them? It was struggle against high revenue. So, what was their ideal? And why did they join the movement? They joined the movement in order to reduce this high revenue. But they were deeply disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931 because revenue rates were not at all revised. So, when this movement was restated in 1932, many of them refused to participate as their objective, their goal was not met previously when civil disobedience movement had started. So, now when it is going to restart, they were not very enthusiastic to participate in this movement. The poor peasants were not just interested in lowering of the revenue demand. Many of them were small tenants. They were cultivating land that they had rented from the landlord. As the depression continued and the cash income dwindled, the small tenants found it difficult to pay the rent, so as they were not able to pay the rent because of the depression. They wanted the unpaid rent to the landlord be remitted. They joined a variety of radical movements, often led by the socialists and the communists. Apprehensive of raising issues that might upset the rich peasants and the landlords, the Congress was unwilling to support no rent campaign in many places. The Congress said we are not going to support anyone, not even the rich peasants, not even the landlords, and so they did not support the no rent campaign. So the relationship between the poor peasants and the Congress remained uncertain. So this created that this trust between the poor peasants and the Congress. Okay, so they did not trust Congress anymore as they did not support them in the no raid campaign. We discussed about the participation of the peasants and the landlords in the countryside in the civil disobedience movement when it was again started. Now, what about the business class? Were they going to participate in the civil disobedience movement again? Well, during the First World War, Indian merchants and industrialists had made a huge profit and had become very powerful because they were the ones who were supplying all the goods and the agricultural products at the on the boundary line, correct? They were the ones who were selling off goods as the Britishers were not able to sell off their cotton textiles. So we were the ones, we were producing all the cloth, we were producing uniform for the soldiers and we were supplying all the goods, correct? Alright, so now these industrialists wanted to expand their business but they were restricted by the colonial policies. So what was their aim, objective of participating in the civil disobedience movement? What did Swaraj meant to them? They wanted protection against import of foreign goods and rupee sterling ratio because it was creating a problem for them. And they also organized business interest groups and they formed an Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress. They formed a business interest group, that is, all the businessmen came together who had the same motive, same objective, and they formed the Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress in 1920, and they also formed Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries, FICCI, correct? So these were the two organizations which were formed by the business group. In towns, this business group was led by prominent industrialists like Purushottam Das, Thakur Das, and G.D. Birla. Industrialists attacked colonial control over the Indian economy and they supported the civil disobedience movement when it was first launched. They even provided financial assistance and refused to buy or sell imported goods. Most businessmen came to see Swaraj as a time when the colonial restrictions would be totally removed from the business and trade and industry would flourish. So, their objective or aim was to remove the colonial restrictions and so that the trade and business would flourish. But after the failure of the round table conference, business groups were no longer uniformly enthusiastic. So once they came to know that the discussion at the roundtable conference was not a success, so then business groups were not enthusiastic about again participating in the civil disobedience movement. They were also apprehensive of the fact that the extremist group from the Congress were spreading militant activities. Okay, they were using violence and they were worried about the prolonged disruption of the business, which was causing them lot of losses. As well as there was a growing influence of socialism among the young group of members of the Congress. So as you very well know that socialist structure or socialism follows that there should not be monopoly right of the traders and every should be handed over to the workers, that is each and everyone should have an equal share. So definitely businessmen did not like the idea of socialism being growing in India at that time. That's the reason they were apprehensive and they never wanted to participate in the civil disobedience movement again. Now, as the industrialists did not participate in much number, so what was the case about the industrial working class? Did they participate in the civil disobedience movement in large numbers? Well, they did not participate in the civil disobedience movement in large numbers except in Nagpur region. As the industrialists had come closer to the Congress, workers stayed aloof from the Congress. But in spite of that, some of the workers did participate in the civil disobedience movement, but selectively adopted some of the ideas of the Gandhian program, like boycott of foreign goods as a part of their own movement. And against what? Against low wages and poor working conditions. So they demanded that we will boycott foreign goods if we are not going to increase our wages and you are not going to have a good working conditions if they are not provided to us. There was a strike by the railway workers in 1930 and by the dock workers in 1932. In 1930, thousands of workers in Chota Nagpur Plateau in tin mines, they wore the Gandhian cap and they participated in the protest rallies. But the Congress was reluctant to include workers' demand in the program, in their program of struggle. Alright, so because they felt that this would alienate the industrialists and divide the anti-imperial force. Anti-imperial force which was standing against the British. And who were they? So it was the political parties, the Congress, and also this rich business class, that is the industrialist. Okay. Another important feature of the civil disobedience movement was the large scale participation of women. During Gandhiji's salt march, thousands of women came out of their homes to listen to him and to participate in the movement. They participated in the protest marches, they manufactured salt, and they picketed foreign cloth and liquor shops. Many went to jail. This all happened by the participation of women. In urban areas, these women were from high class families, whereas in rural areas, they were from rich peasant household. Moved by Gandhiji's call, they began to see service to the nation as a sacred duty to women. Correct? So they never had any altered motive. Alright? They had a pure motive of serving to the nation. Yet, this increased public role did not necessarily mean any radical change in the way the position of women was visualized in the society. Gandhiji was convinced it was the duty of women to look after home, be good mother, be good wives. And for a long time, Congress was reluctant to allow women to hold any position of authority within the organization. It was keen only on their symbolic presence. So, what are the key points that we have to remember for this part? Let's find out.